here because there we go. I was waiting for this thing to actually go live there for a second. It was taking forever. Welcome to Suspended Fanimation. I am your host, Dennis Betholkis, and this is Doom Patrol, Season 1, Episode 9, Jane Patrol. Damn, that's all I can say. This has really gotten... it went a little bit deep on this one. It really gave us a bit something different on this one, I have to admit. When I was starting this show off, Doom Patrol, I was not expecting it to go in the direction that it's gone in. And also with, being a superhero show too, as it is, it's very, very different. And this is the stuff that we kind of want superhero shows to be like, is like this. So deep, having so many different layers to it, so many onions to it, if you will, onion layers, as the tip would say, onion leaves, that it's just amazing. So anyway, let me start off here before I spoil anything. Spoiler alert. Oh, I got my cord there tangled up. Spoiler alert, I will be spoiling this episode. If you haven't seen the episode, go and watch it. Come on back. It will be a video, and then you can comment down below in the comment section. So there we go. And thank you, Viking Bitch, for the paddle. Oh, yeah. Joe Gurr says Deep Into the Underground, sung by Jamiroquai off the Godzilla soundtrack. Nice. Yeah, kind of nice. And hopefully everyone hears me all right. I was actually doing a little monkeying with the microphone before I started off here, and I've lowered the gain a bit. So I think that might actually help. So you don't hear, well, you'll probably hear the screaming hellspawn outside, because I heard them through the microphone earlier before I just started here. Unfortunately, there's nothing I can do, and the flamethrower is on back order. So, yeah. Hey, Slurmy. No, you didn't miss anything at the moment. Fear the monkeys. So this Jane Patrol episode, this is all about Jane for the most part. Yeah, I know you can hear the hellspawn. They are very, very, very loud. So, and that's with a closed door and a closed window too. So, yeah. So anyway, we start off in Arkansas in 1957 with a little girl playing with a puzzle. She's putting together a puzzle on the ground when this guy walks in, who we assume is her father. And, he says, sweet, sweet little girl. It's very creepy, of course. And he tells the little girl to give daddy a kiss. And she says, I'm putting my puzzle together. I'm not done with my puzzle. And he tells her to get up anyway. And she comes up and hugs him. And he calls her Kay. So it's Kay Chalice, as we know that is the main person that Jane is. That is her core, basically what she started off with. And then we see in the underground, we see Karen getting dragged by her hair, by Hammerhead. And Hammerhead's completely bald and played by a different actress. So it's not Jane. It's not Diane Guerrero that we see. We actually see a different actress altogether playing Hammerhead, and she drags her into the middle of a large room that looks like a warehouse, and they're surrounded by Jane's other personalities, and we get introduced to them kind of comic book style in a way. They get their names kind of posted above them, and then they disappear into the ether. So we see Kit with the can stick, Scarlet Harlot, Lucy Fugue, Silver Tongue, Jillin Irons, Mama Pentecost, the Nun, Pretty Polly, Flit, who we've met before, Baby Doll, who we've met before, the Secretary, and Pretty Polly tells Karen that playtime is over and hope she had fun. And of course, Karen spits on her and starts laughing, and then starts singing a song about Polly that really pisses Polly off. And yeah, the Nun with the chainsaw was kind of interesting. That was awesome. But yeah, it pisses Polly off a lot, and she hits her, and Hammerhead's that's enough. She's gonna go, and basically she's gonna get punished for what she did. So they haul her off, of course, and we see Jane come out of the shadows in the back, and she's looking at everything. And everyone asks her why she isn't up there, that she needs to go back up to the top. And that was the whole deal: is that she is the main personality, she is the primary, and that's what holds everything together. There's their rules that they have. Otherwise, shit's gonna get a little funky. Otherwise, and she says that's what keeps the equilibrium in the underground. And we find out that Polly has never been up there. So Polly is one of the personalities that hasn't emerged as of yet, which I really want to see what the hell Polly's all about, because she has these X's carved in over on the skin over her eyes, and just wears this black dress. If you actually see the thumbnail that I put up on here, she's actually front and center of that thumbnail. So fairly interesting person. So Jane agrees. She's like, all right, I'm going up, and she actually was telling, why don't one of you go up? And they're like, you know what the deal is. You're the primary. You need to go up. And Jane really doesn't want to go up there because she says it's tough up there. You don't know who to trust. Everything is kind of fucked up there. They're like, but you got to go. So she's like, all right, I'm going. She gets on the train, and we see her riding. It's this old, dilapidated kind of subway car, and she's riding. And we see another woman that looks like Jane sitting inside the conductor car of the subway car, and comes out and starts talking to her. And it's we find out this is Driver 8. And Driver 8 is happy to just shuttle people back and forth on the train. That's all she wants to do. She said she once had thought about going up into the light, but passed fairly quickly. So Jane says, it's hard being up there. And Jane asks if anyone's ever pulled the emergency handle before. And Driver 8's like, no one ever has. And she goes, well, what happened? She goes, well, the train would stop and I would have to fix it. She goes, oh, that's interesting. And how long does it take to fix a train? She goes, well, how long do you need? Of course. So we know exactly where that one's going. Engine number 9, yes. And, we end up going back to Doom Manor, and we see that everyone's surrounded the catatonic body of Jane. They've brought her back into the lab. They put her on one of the tables there, or actually the chair. She's laying out in this chair, and they're trying to, and of course Rita is just saying, Jane, wake up, which of course is not working. Jane, come on, sweetie, come out of it. And Cyborg's kind of pissed at her at this point. He's like, it hasn't worked the last couple of times. It's not going to work now. And Cliff, of course, is blaming himself for putting everyone through therapy. I love Rita's response. She goes, don't flatter yourself, Cliff. Therapy was the rat's idea. Which it was, which was also Mr. Nobody's idea. So there we go. Sorry, I just heard my dog getting into something there for a second. She was doing something that she wasn't supposed to, from what it sounded like. Cyborg ends up scanning Jane and says there's nothing wrong with her physically. There's no way she shouldn't be awake, but her brain activity is off the charts. So we don't know what the hell's going on. And he says, you know what, I wish at this point in time that we could actually just, shrink down, kind of like Magic School Bus style, and find out what's wrong with her. And I love Larry's like, you really kind of embrace the weird now all of a sudden, haven't you? And as he's saying that, the entity comes out of him and knocks him down. He goes down to the ground, and we see the entity approach Cliff and grabs Cliff by the head. And that's when we see Cliff going down into the underground. And he's walking through the tunnels, but Cliff is in his human form, which is very weird. So we see him in his human form walking through the tunnels, and he comes up onto the train car itself that stopped on the tracks. And he goes inside, and it's empty, of course. He walks out of one of the other doors onto the platform and sees the platform's empty, and the lights are flickering and all this stuff. But then he noticed somebody inside the cab, the driver's cab of the car, and of course it's Driver 8. And Driver 8's like, who are you? You're not supposed to be here. And he introduced himself as Cliff, and obviously Driver 8 knows who Cliff is. And says, well, yeah, you're really not supposed to be here. And he explains, of course, that he's there to help her. And, of course, what the negative entity has done is that he's joined his mind with her mind. and that's what is allowing him to be there. And then he asks her, if anyone can help him. Obviously, since she can't, and she goes, I'll put out the word. I'll see what can happen here. In the meantime, we find Jane sitting out by the lake, and she's plucking petals off a flower. And we see Penny Farthing come down the road, and Penny Farthing's surprised to see Jane there. And she's like, "What are you doing here? I didn't know anyone knew about this memory." And Jane's like, "Whose memory is this?" She goes, "I don't know. It's just a lovely memory. I come here to forget about things and take the load off kind of thing." And she's having a picnic is what she's doing. And, we have Jane really wants to, she wants to know what the hell's going on, but she also wants to find out what the answers are. So she doesn't want to go back up to the top side. And Penny is smart enough to realize that Jane is the reason why the train is broken down. She knows the train is broken down. And she also has heard talks from the others that Jane does not want to go back up to the surface anymore, go up to the top. And we get an interesting look at Penny Farthing in this one too, and I'll get to that in a little bit. So we see Cliff. He gets to meet Hammerhead out on the platform, and it's like, "What are you doing here, asshole?" And he goes, Hammerhead. And Hammerhead puts him immediately in a hammerlock and pushes him up against the platform wall there. And then he gets punched in the back by somebody else. He goes, "Who in the hell are you?" "I'm Driller Bill, asshole." That's what she says. And they manhandle Cliff and ask him what he's doing there. And he's just saying, "I'm trying to help her. That's all I'm trying to do." Like, all right. Then they take him and they take him with them. So Jane, in the meantime, comes to a door with a number dispenser outside of it. And she grabs the number, and she's number 1. She walks in through the doors, and this is where we meet the sisters. The sisters are 3 heads on 1 body. And they look like fortune tellers. They're sitting behind a table, and they said, "Oh, you've come to seek our counsel. Come, sit down, sit down." That's what they tell her. And Jane, of course, sits down, of course. And we cut over to Cliff getting thrown into a cell next to Karen. Karen's still in her wedding dress with a bloody nose. And he's like, "What the hell? What are you throwing me in here for?" And they're like, "You're going to sit here for a little while." And so they leave. And Karen asks, "What the all fuck are you doing here?" is what she says to Cliff. And why are you human? "Well, you look better human," is what she's saying, kind of thing. And Karen thinks it's a grand gesture of him entering Jane's brain. Of course, being the rom-com queen that she is, he thinks it's something that, Cliff is trying to gain her romantic interest, if you will, but it's not. He's just trying to help her at this point. Yeah, I did love that line too. Viking bitch with the all fuck. That's why I had to write it down, of course. And she says Jane will never give him what she and Dougie has. And he goes, "Well, what do you and Dougie have?" And they're like, "Well, everyone's afraid. All these bitches here, they're afraid to be normal." And she goes, I try to get married. And of course, no marriage for anybody. Nobody wants this. And that's what she just wants. She just wants to be normal. But of course, none of the others want that. So we get a little bit of Jane wants to be normal, and so does Karen, but the rest don't want to be normal, which is just kind of a weird thing. So the sisters end up saying that they can guide Jane, but they cannot help her, and that she will need to go deeper and go to the well. And when Jane goes to ask a question, they go, "Shh," and they point up to the neon sign above the door. It says, "Don't ask questions," which I need to get that for my desk at work. I just need to have a big freaking neon sign above me that says, "Don't ask questions," because that's all I do at work. It's answer questions. Speaking of the thirst, where's Queen Pen? Oh, that's right. Where is Queen Pen? Exactly. So Jane, of course, exits the room, and who's waiting outside but Penny Farthing. And Penny Farthing is, wanting to know. She said it's only a matter of time before she gets pushed up into the, to the outside, which she does not want to go to. She doesn't want to go to the top because Jane is not going up there. So it's creating a vacuum. It's creating a problem. And of course, the weaker personalities are the ones that are going to get pushed to the top. It's very odd that all these personalities, even the ones that are being badass and everything, none of them want to go to the top. They're all afraid of going to the top. And it's a very telling thing about Jane's psyche at that point, is that all of them are afraid to emerge. All of them are afraid to live outside of the underground. And they're all badasses in the underground. They all, have their own traits in the underground, but they all are afraid to go up to the top, except for Jane. Jane is the one, of course, who is going up there all this time. And she tells Jane, she goes, "Don't go to the well." She goes, "Just take a break if you need to. Go back to the lake out there and have a break." She goes, "But don't go to the well." That's what happened to Miranda. And Jane says, "I'm not like Miranda." So this is the first mention that we have of someone named Miranda, which we'll get to here in a little bit. So Hammerhead takes Karen out of her cell because she says, "Have you cooled down now?" And Karen salutes her. And of course, they take her out of the cell and like, "All right, go on back." And Cliff's like, "What the fuck? She gets to leave? What about me?" And so he gets pissed off and he punches the wall and he hurts his hand, of course, but he chips a little bit of the wall out. And then he starts chipping more of the wall out, starts punching a little bit more and more and more. And then someone slides a ice pick across the floor to him from another cell. And we get someone that looks like the Scarecrow that's just sitting over there. We don't get a name to that person in the cell, but it's someone who's perpetually in that cell. I want to know who that is. We never do find out. So Cliff picks up the pick and starts picking away at the wall and creates a big enough hole where he sees Jane sitting on the other side in her room with all her paintings, and he calls out to her. And Penny Farthing all of a sudden pops her head by the hole and scares the shit out of him. He's like, "What the hell?" And he goes, "I'm here to help Jane." And he goes, and she goes, "Yeah." She goes, "I am too. I need you to come out here to stop her." And he goes, "Well, she's right there." And Penny looks around and goes, No. That's a memory. You must have, gotten through a couple of memories to get over here. You had to have." And she helps him chip away at the wall and basically tells him that, they need to go through some memories first to go to Jane and stop her from getting to the well, the real Jane. So we see Jane traveling to the memory of her out in the street feeding a dog and being taken by people that are in the sanitarium, the orderlies, and she's found and she gets put back into the back of the truck and taken back to the sanitarium. The title card said Jack Straw for the Scarecrow character. Oh, okay. I didn't even see that, Viking bitch. I even rewound it, and I guess I just missed it. So Jack Straw is the Scarecrow character. Very interesting. So Jack, so we had a guy that was there. All of these personalities of hers have been female, except for Jack Straw. And I'm wondering, because he's a male, that's the reason why he's been locked up. That's kind of an interesting thing because Cliff was locked up as well. Yeah. So we see, well, like I said, this whole thing about Jane being taken back to the sanitarium, and that's when she hears the creepy guy's voice again saying, "Sweet baby, come to me." And she's following. She hears it faintly all this time as she's going around there. So we see Cliff and Penny Farthing enter a school memory, and Penny Farthing explains that the fastest way around is to go through these memories. And she goes, "But the further down you go, the darker the memories become." And she goes, "But sometimes the dark memories cling to the light memories, and you never know what you're going to get when you open up a door. So you kind of have to be careful as you're going through this stuff." And we see they open up the door to a classroom, and we see Kay in class. And the teacher, of course, is giving this weird lecture. And even Cliff's like, "This isn't right." And she walks up to Kay and says, "Oh, are you here with us, Kay?" And Kay just keeps muttering, shut the door," is what she keeps whispering. And Penny says, "You're going to have to cover your eyes because we're going to go through what's left of Miranda Station." And he's like, "Okay." So he covers over his eyes, and they open up a door in the back of the classroom where this bright light comes out and walk through. And of course, Miranda is there. Kay is saying that she's not Kay, but she's Miranda, is what she was saying. So sitting there in the classroom. And so this is the last vestige of Miranda that's left. If you really want to, it's just the memory. And she stands up and screams, "Shut the door!" as the light is coming through. And so they walk through. Cliff still has his hand over his eyes, and he decides to peek through his fingers and sees a guy with his hands basically bound, hanging from his neck. And he's like, "Holy shit!" And she's like, "Yeah, I told you not to look," is what Penny Farthing says. So this meek Penny Farthing that we've been seeing, that we saw in the outside land when they were in the snow globe there, is actually kind of badass in the underground. She gets around, she knows where to go, and she's not afraid of anything in the underground. She's it looks like she's been through all the memories and knows where all the memories are and knows the fastest way around. So I think there's more to it that we haven't gotten to as of yet, and that we probably will see later on in future episodes. So we heard that Penny Farthing explains that Miranda threw herself into the well, and Miranda's station has a lot of freaking dead bodies that look like they've been tortured. They're either hanging or they've been decimated in some way, and it just some pretty disgusting stuff as they're going through. So they enter a door at the end of the station there, and they end up going out into the first time that Jane had met Cliff outside when she was painting. And he goes, "Well, why is this memory so deep?" He goes, "This is a good memory." And Penny Farthing says, "It might have been a good memory for you, but not for us. This was the beginning of the end. This is Jane had hope when she met you. You gave her hope, but that didn't last." And she walks away from him at that point. And Cliff's like, fuck. So we see Jane watching a memory of her and Chief talking about, it was that whole tape thing that she had been watching of her and Chief. And he asks about her father, and she immediately shuts down when he asks about her father. And she won't talk about it, of course. And just as they're getting to that point, who walks in but Cliff and Penny Farthing? And yeah, she is pissed. Jane is pissed at Cliff and at Penny Farthing for bringing him that way, and says, "What the fuck are you doing here?" And he says, "We're all scared for you. We want you to come back." And Jane is like, "Fuck off, get the fuck away." She's dropping the F-bombs left and right. And then she hears the voice again and kind of trails off. And Cliff's like, "Whoa, where'd you go?" And she goes, I'm doing this, I've got my own things to do. Fuck off, leave, is what she tells him. And she walks down the hallway. He's like, all right. He just kind of leaves her. So, and he asked her to come back one more time, and she says she doesn't see the point in going back, and that if he really wants to help her, he will go. So, it's just, it's pretty tragic at this point. So she continues down the creepy hallway, and she comes across this voice asking her who she is. "Who are you?" And this is when we meet Black Anise. And Black Anise is this crone with matted hair and a dark cowl on, who has finger knives. And she says she's Jane. And she goes, "I know of no Jane." And she sniffs her, and she says, "The sisters sent me." And she says, "Yes, the sisters have. Goodbye, Jane. You may pass," is what she says, and lets her pass. So that is the going to the well is what we've got going on here. And as Jane walks down the hallway, she hears that sweet, sweet baby voice again, and it's getting clearer now and louder this time. And the guy says, "Please don't keep me waiting." Of course. So then we see Cliff following Jane down the hallway, and Penny's like, "Well, if you're going to follow her, why'd you go through all that anyway?" She goes, well, he goes, "I'm trying to help her." He goes, "And she wasn't going to let me go either way, so that's why I'm following her now." Yeah, that Black Anise costume was Black Anise, was really creepy. I'm hoping we get to see this at Comic-Con. I hope there's some people that dress up like it. That'd be actually really kind of cool. So Penny Farthing stops only at one point and says, "I can't go any farther. This is where I do not go past." She goes, "There's only darkness ahead." And she won't go any farther than that, and leaves Cliff on his own. So we see Jane walking down the hall of a really nice house, and she enters a room, and we see Kay sitting on the floor finishing her puzzle, or yeah, getting near the end of her puzzle. And this is where we had walked in at the very beginning in Arkansas, 1957, and we realized that that memory of the farmhouse by the lake and everything was actually the puzzle. So it's Kay's memory. And she goes, "Oh, this is where it all started," is what Jane tells her. And we see her father walk in and tells her to come with him. And she's like, I'm not done with my puzzle yet. He goes, "We can finish it later." He goes, you need to come with me before mommy gets home. So yeah, we know that's some pretty fucked up shit what's going on right there at that point. So she ends up standing up and walking towards her father. Then we see Jane taking his hand and taking Kay's place. And Kay says, "Bye-bye," as Jane walks away with her father hand in hand. So Cliff is walking down the hallway, and Black Anise actually smells Cliff and says, "I smell a man." And he comes in and he says, "I'm looking for Jane." And that's when she slashes him across the face. And we see his robot form underneath. And she slashes him a couple more times. And, he ends up revealing his robot form. And Cliff, in the meantime, is having flashbacks of his life, the crash, shit that's happened to him, that as he was being put into the robot form, and everything is coming together. And he finally is like, "I'm not a man." He goes, "I'm a monster." And that's when he starts ripping off his flesh off of his robot form. And his robot form is there, and he says, "I'm not a man." And Black Anise runs her claws across him. We hear it scraping across the metal, and she taps his crotch too and says, "You are not a man." And says he can pass. This no man can pass, is what she says. And Cliff enters a door. He goes out, and we see it's an outdoor setting again with a well, and he's walking across the ground that is littered with all these puzzle pieces. And we see Jane standing on the edge of the well, and she keeps saying, "No one tells, tell no one. No one tells, tell no one," is what she keeps saying. And he's trying to snap her out of it when all these puzzle pieces come flying up out of the well, and they form her father, like a giant version of her father. And he keeps saying, "Sweet, sweet baby, come to me," all this kind of stuff, "You're mine." And Cliff's like, "Fuck you." And he's trying to snap her out of it. And, she won't snap out of it. And then we see her dad, or the puzzle piece dad, grab her, picks her up, and he grabs Cliff's legs with his mouth and rips his legs off and throws him back to the ground. And Cliff keeps screaming to her, "Jane, run, Jane, run." And she finally snaps out of it and says, "No, you can't do this to him." And then she starts screaming at her dad that he was a horrible person. And she says no. And that's when he finally goes back down the well. His puzzle pieces start falling apart, and he goes back down the well. And that's when we see Jane and Cliff on the train ride back to the top. And she's smiling at him a little bit. She's kind of looking over at him, has a half smile. And they make it up to the top there. And they end up in the lab. And Jane gets up off the table, goes away, walks away, and they ask Cliff, they're like, "What the hell happened?" He says, "That's not my story to tell." And he says, "But I think she's going to be okay." Jane goes and lays down on her bed and closes her eyes, and then we hear "Sweet, sweet baby," and her eyes open up and she gasps. And that's where we leave it. Damn, that's all I can say. It's, excuse me. It's less than an hour long, just barely less than an hour long, this episode, but they packed a lot of shit into this. And I'm going to go up and see. I know you guys were asking a lot of questions while I was doing this, but I was trying to get through the recap first before I answered a lot of questions. Yeah, Cliff got a chance to be human again, just for a little bit. Exactly. The Road Warrior movie gave me nightmares as a child. Okay. Never trust a train conductor. Yeah, exactly, Viking bitch. I never thought I would be happy to see you, Hammerhead. Whack. Yeah, and then the kidney punch that happened with Driller Bill. That's what that. Yeah, that's what you're supposed to do. And the sisters were not as creepy as I thought they were going to be. They could have been a little bit creepier, but it was interesting. All the different personalities were interesting. I want to see more of this. I want to see more of the underground, and I hope we get more of it because it really needs to be done. Movie says it was like the Shawshank Redemption, chipping a hole in the wall. Just need a poster to cover it over. Yeah. Um, yeah, Jack Straw was an interesting character. I really want to know what the hell's up with Jack Straw. That is kind of interesting. Let's see here. What else do we have? A lot of symbolism. Yes, there was a lot of symbolism in this Joker. I'd have to go back and watch it again in order to catch a lot of it. But the puzzle pieces, I didn't get a chance to really look at the puzzle pieces themselves because again, I was taking notes as I was watching this, and it's kind of a first pass through for me. But I'm fairly sure the puzzle pieces had some meaning to them as well. Um, what else do we have here? Now Morix is trapped at work. All right. Sculpted letter art by Viking Bitch says, my favorite part was the very end because it was real. She stood up to her father in her mind, but he was still in the well, and the well is in her. It's not that easy. Exactly. Um, there was some really good stuff in this. I mean, if she does not get nominated for an Emmy for this, then fuck the Emmys. I mean, she really needs to get or a Golden Globe or something like that. She is doing a phenomenal job in this role, and yeah. So, but then again, they didn't nominate Tatiana Maslany either for Black for Orphan Black. So, go figure. And she put in a great job as well. Movie Finobi says, "Here's a question: who puts puzzles together in the dark?" Um, yeah, I don't know, man. There was some weird stuff all the way around, and I think it was just her memory that was dark because when Jane was walking in, she actually had a light on. So I don't know what was going on there. And yes, the puzzle was a distraction, a way to shut down and try to avoid Dad, and that was the whole thing. Is the puzzles are the pieces of her mind. That's where she kind of got the idea to fracture herself. So she was sending another personality to go when he would take her. Uh, it would create another personality. So that's the fucked up thing. Is that's what I'm getting at anyway? Is that she had all these personalities that happened because of what was happening to her, and she created a new one each time. Um, the thing that gets me is how did she develop superpowers? How did each one develop superpowers or powers, if you will? That would be an interesting thing to see of how that happened. So no man can pass. Why not me be doing a black Anise costume? No, thanks, Stormy Scott. It gets really hot and humid, and a costume like that would fucking kill me. There's no way in hell. Yeah. Did anyone make puzzles and glue them as posters as a child? No, I did not, Joker. I know people that have done it, but yeah. Let's see what else. Mufinobi says Cliff now knows more boundaries for Jane and respects her world. It's good for their relationship and friendship. Yeah, and that was the other thing too, is when he said, that's not my story to tell. That was what Penny Farthing said. That's not my story to tell. And Penny Farthing was actually, I think, the strongest character out of all of them when you look at it, because she was going through these memories without flinching, which means she's gone through these memories multiple times and knows how to traverse them and knows what to avoid and where to go. whereas the others all sit in one location. They don't travel the underground as much as Penny Farthing does. And I think we're gonna find out something a little bit more about Penny Farthing in the future there. So, and Hammerhead, for all her bluster and everything that she does in the outside world, as Karen even said, that Hammerhead was pretty much a pussy in the underground, and is really couldn't do anything. So there we go. Yeah, skillful art by Viking Bitch. I really hope this repairs Cliff's and Jane's relationship. It's at least a start. Yeah. Yeah, Tatiana did get her pity Emmy at the end, but that was a bullshit thing. They did it at the very last season. She should have gotten it every single year, considering that she was the best actress in that entire group of crap actresses that they had going on at the time. Viking Bitch says, yes, I want to know what each personality's superpower is. We have seen a few, but I want more. Well, we know what Silver Tongues is. Baby Doll, we still haven't seen what her powers are. We don't know what Penny Farthing's powers are. Yeah, I want to see what Pretty Polly's powers are if she ever emerges. And yeah, I saw that Tatiana got a new gig as well. She is doing it's a limited series on HBO. Is what she's doing. So she's not really locked into anything. She's just going to do a limited series and then it's going to be done. So I read that as well. So yeah, this is actually, I mean, this was a lot of stuff going on in this episode. And, we now know for sure that it was her father molesting her, of course, that separated out, that fractured her and made all these different personalities. And like I said, I just want to know where the hell the superpowers came from. If that was always in her and each one just fractured out into these different superpowers, or if she got them later on. And then also, since this started in Arkansas in 1957, how in the hell is she so young? And I know someone passed off the idea that maybe all the different personalities take their time, as being at the top, and that's why she doesn't age. But I have a hard time believing that one, considering that we just found out that Jane is the one that's agreed upon to be the primary personality. Stormy Scott says, I still wonder if she didn't have identical twins, how one person could play so many people. It's just good acting, Stormy. Again, look at Tatiana Mosley. She plays multiple people and does it well. And that also goes with your director as well and your crew. That's what they did on Orphan Black, is that they would actually record something and then the director would go, nope, that character doesn't do that. What you just did, we have to refilm the scene. And she's like, yep, you're right. And she realized that she had done some kind of motion or did some kind of quirk that character wouldn't do. And so she had to go back and redo it. Penn Farm Girl says they'll tease it along and not explain where the powers came from until season 3. Yeah, most likely. Ed Norton did it before. What's that? But the others don't age either. Yeah, that's the other. Well, Larry, we can understand. Larry's burned, and so the entity is keeping him alive, really. Rita, we know that she's stuck in the age that she is because she's elastic, plastic, if you will. Of course, Cliff is just a brain inside of a robot body. And Cyborg is pretty much new. So I can understand the other ones, except for Chief. Chief is the only one I don't understand why he hasn't aged. Because he was fighting Nazis back in World War II. And a little bit after, because 1947, he was in Argentina. So there you go. If he was taking out Mr. Nobody, as we saw in that puppet show, then what the hell? How is Chief not aging? How is, Jane not aging? Um, those are the two that should be aging out of all of these people, other than Cyborg, of course. So Mufinobi says, no one needs to know where the power of Finobi comes from. It just is. That's called burritos, Mufinobi. I think it's Taco Bell is where your power comes from. Yeah, pull my finger. Finobi is magic. That's his battle cry is pull my finger. Joker the Third says, like the original Doom Patrol. Exactly. Ah, man. So yeah, damn good episode. Like I said, it hasn't. We haven't gotten a single bad episode out of this series as of yet. The original Doom Patrol, yes, in the old folks' home. What the hell? I mean, they aged. We know that they aged, but yeah, I don't know. Hopefully, they're gonna breach that at some point in time. Because honestly, Niles brought together the first Doom Patrol, and they were all around Niles's age at the time, so he should be as old as they are. There we go. That is something. If I ever get into the panel, I'm gonna have to ask. I'm gonna say, "What the fuck, man, is going on with the ages on this thing?" Mufinobi says, "Unfortunately, it's not timeless like Morx's Vampire Den." Yeah. Yes, Hawk and Dove are coming back for season 2 of Titans. Yes, but we knew that, and also Superboy. So if you go back and take a look at the very, very end of Titans' last episode, past the credits, there is a Cadmus Lab scene. That's all I'm going to say. And it's already been spoiled, so I'm not spoiling any. I already have my spoiler alert up anyway, and there's one right up here. So there we go. Oh man, I'm sorry, Joker. Well, watch the very end of the credits, man, of the last episode, and you'll see. So, any thoughts on Miranda, Dennis? I think Miranda sacrificed herself or killed herself. I don't know. I mean, what we have left, we just have the remnants of her. And the other thing I'm wondering is Miranda had a station named after her. She was one of the originals. Is what she was. She was one of the original personalities. So I'm wondering how many more stations are in the underground that are named after personalities or that are containing personalities, and in what state they're in. Because we saw what the state of Miranda Station was in. Yeah, I know Finobi's a huge fan of Cloak and Dagger. And Mufino says, I did get the suicide vibe from the hanging victims in that shortcut they took. Yeah. Well, not only that, you also got it from Jane. Jane said she couldn't take it anymore, and that's what she was doing. She was committing suicide. Even Penny Farthing says, well, why didn't you play Russian roulette while you were at it? So we got a couple different references to suicide within that episode, this episode. And so, yeah, they can't handle, of course. So the outside world is disappointing them to the point where they're having to kill themselves. They don't want to go. They don't want to. But the inside world as well is also poisoning them because of what happened with her father. So there's really no place for her to go, no place for these personalities to find any kind of peace, except for Penny Farthing. She finds, a modicum of peace going to the puzzle memory and having a picnic, as she says. And I'm wondering if Penny Farthing is one of the original, might be the original personality, the first one to split off. And that's the reason why she can handle it so well and why she knows how to get around so well as well. Dennis is the cloak for my dagger. No, Mufinobi, because that implies that you put something. Yeah, no, never mind. Yes, not gonna happen. I appreciate the sentiment there, but I don't swing that way. So there you go. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where they go with this. I mean, they only have was it 4 more episodes to go? Yeah, 13 episodes. So we've got 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, or 10, 11, 12, 13. So there we go. We got 4 more episodes to go before we get there. Hey, crispy tenders. So yeah, very, very interesting show. And I want to see more. I just want more of this thing. Yeah, if they had dumped this all at once, had released the entire season all at once, I probably would have binged it in one day because it's that good, or as much of it as I could in one day. Kind of like I did with the Tick. Yeah, I'm not happy about that one. But how many episodes are left? Four. This is number 9, and we have 13 episodes. So we have 4 more episodes to go. So if you like what you see here, hit the subscribe button. Also, hit the like button down below. If you don't like what you see, you can hit the dislike button. I just asked if you hit the dislike button, tell me down below in the comments why. Give me some constructive criticism of what you didn't like. Also, if you want to see when I'm going to be on live again next, hit the little bell down below. Don't hit it again if you've already hit it before. That will unclick it and you won't get any notifications. You can also go into the bell settings and manage how often you get those notifications, if at all, because YouTube sometimes does not send out those notifications. It's a little bit buggy. So my schedule is up on suspendedfanimation.com. You can also find it up on Facebook. I have a Facebook page, Suspended Fanimation, and I'm on Twitter and I'm on Instagram as well. There we go. I've got all of that going on. So tomorrow is Saturday morning blast off. That's where I take the genre news of the week, and there's a shitload of news this week. And we're going to talk about all of that, including any of the other genre stuff you guys want to talk about as well. And then on Sunday is going to be Game of Thrones. The final season begins. And we're going to start that off. There we go. What is it? There's 6 episodes, I believe, of Game of Thrones, 6 or 8 episodes, something like that. And then Monday, we have the big blue guy right here, the Tick. Yes, I'm still continuing with season 2 of the Tick on Amazon, episode 2. Wednesday is Happy. And then Thursday of next week, we return with Gotham. The last 2 episodes of Gotham are going to be happening. And the beginning of the end starts next week with Gotham. So there we go. And of course, Fridays is Doom Patrol, the ever-present Doom Patrol. And by the way, I don't know if anyone has Cinemax or anything like that. I checked out the first episode of The Lawyer. That's the series that's based off of Bruce Lee's writings that he was working on that got stolen and was made into Kung Fu. So it's his original notes, and it's awesome, actually. It's really damn good. The guy that they have is pretty much a Bruce Lee clone, but the martial arts that he can do, my God, it's kick-ass. That's all I can say. And Hoon Lee is in it too. One of my favorite actors. He was in Banshee. I believe the guy who is responsible for this show was also responsible for Banshee as well. So, Joker says, I'm trying to wait for the first 3 shows. Okay. Yeah, I was debating whether or not to cover it. It's actually going to be on tonight. That's why I'm going to watch it when it comes out again tonight for the second episode. And I've seen that first episode now like 3 times. Because the martial arts in it is actually pretty damn good. Yes, I've seen Raid the Redemption. Raid the Redemption's all right. I mean, it's interesting. I have a nitpicky thing about the Raid the Redemption just because of what they did with Dredd. And yeah, everyone keeps saying, oh, well, Dredd stole Raid the Redemption. Actually, no, it's the other way around. So, really, I added Cinemax because of the show. It's kind of funny. I ended up, I'm going to be talking about this on Saturday too, about TV prices and all that kind of stuff, because it is a big thing that's going on right now. It is something that's important, but I ended up dropping DirecTV Now because they were raising my rates up to $50 a month, and I wasn't getting anything new out of it. And then my cable provider, my internet provider, who's also the cable provider in this area and all that stuff, gave me a deal. They're like, okay, we'll give you the same amount of channels that you're getting with DirecTV Now, plus we'll throw in all 4 premium channels, movie channels, for $48 a month. And I was like, fuck, all right, I'll do $48 a month. And that was locked. They said the price is locked in for 2 years, but you're not in a contract. And I was like, all right, sold. Damn. So yeah, so I've got all these movie channels now, and that's pretty much all I'm doing is just scrolling through the movie channels now and watching those things. Yeah, I had cut the cord too, but then they kind of sucked me back in with that. And honestly, it's the cheapest price considering everyone else has raised all their rates now to $50 a month. So, all the cord cutting venues, except for Sling, but Sling has some really shitty programming. So, and also a really shitty service too at the same time. But you didn't come here to listen to that. You came here to listen about Doom Patrol. Awesome episode as usual. Can't wait for next week, which is Hair Patrol, episode 10, Hair Patrol. I watched the preview for that one. That looks pretty damn funny. I'm kind of interested to see where they're at, where they're going with that. Yeah, so kind of fun. So with that said, I'm going to let you guys go for the evening. And again, oh, by the way, if you're still on the fence about joining up, you're going to see a video up in this area. So basically what it is YouTube has an algorithm, and they're going to see of all the videos that you've watched, they're going to pluck one video out of my library that best suits what you've been watching, and they're going to put it up here for you to take a look at. If you like what you see, you can hit the subscribe button over here. So there we go. I will talk about the Patreon tomorrow. I haven't set it up as of yet, Joe Greer. Shit had gotten real at work. So there was a lot of stuff that blew up at work, and I have been busy beyond belief. So I almost had to cancel a couple of shows here because of what was going on. So, and we counted perky nipples. That's nice. Yeah. So again, take a look at the videos up here. Hit the subscribe button over this way. Hit the like button as well. And don't let the door hit your ass on the way out. Otherwise, you may have Black Anise sniffing you out to see whether or not you're a man or not. Good night, everybody.